Hello again, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, take two.
Take two, yes. And we see Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp experience global outages. Down Detector is reporting that there are issues going on worldwide. Also for Verizon, T-Mobile, Messenger, AT&T, Oculus, Twitter as well. Cindy's getting that. Well, I'll let her share what the guys are telling her about this.
Oh yeah, a couple of days ago was the same thing. There was big outages with some of the bigger banks and some of the other cash out programs. And then I was thinking then that this is a takedown so they can insert some kind of AI stuff for the, the plague upon the land. And they're telling me this is the same thing. They're taking this down so they can insert something to, trace people with.
Yes, trace, and we were talking about phones and getting rid of phones because, phones are a big part of tracing. Last night we were going to watch a movie, so we clicked on and watched the first 5 minutes of a show that was on Netflix, and then I went to reading basically philosophy in the bedroom because it was like, oh, this is just crap.
Yeah, it is.
But the key was they were showing how instantaneously, because of your cell phone, they know exactly where you are.
Yep.
And anybody at any time. I mean, just instantly. If you call in, say, a 911, and that's it. As soon as you call in, they got the info on who you are, where you are, all sorts of info about you in this world.
They do. And, I've noticed on Facebook where they have, I don't know, it's some sort of a Good Samaritan program or something. It's like some sort of pop-up, do you want to be a Good Samaritan? Do this. So it's like, are they already coming to the place where they're going to start giving people points for saying stuff on certain social media?
Oh, we all know how things were in the atrocities, over in Germany in the 30s and 40s. And yeah, history does repeat itself if we are not careful. So yes, major outages ongoing. Cindy didn't experience anything today. I was just basically looking at news as soon as I got up.
Yeah, no, I checked. I didn't experience anything, but I heard other people are. So yeah, they're inserting tracing stuff and they'll bring it right back up.
Yeah, and Facebook, I got rid of my Facebook, at my second Facebook, after Facebook just decided to take down my business Facebook because they didn't like the stuff that we're posting, which again tells you, you're posting about consciousness and raising awareness, things like this. And unfortunately, I had over 1,000 business recommendations, over 1,000 people that I had helped with energy work and things like that. Just, oh, by the way, we took down your Facebook, just like that, And of course, you guys know what they did to Evolutionary with demonizing that. This is the world that we're in. So I had an Instagram, and I got rid of that. And I actually got rid of WhatsApp too because I have such a distaste for it. We do utilize Facebook Messenger. Cindy has a Facebook account that we don't really update anything personal to, but we just basically use it so that she could stare at horses because she wants to have a pony again someday.
Someday. Well, we keep the information broad sweeping. I don't put any personal pictures, nothing like that at all in any way. No, all the information on there is just something to fill out so that we could have the account, because some people need to use Facebook Messenger for our appointments.
It's so interesting because, there's all those rumors and conspiracies that have talked about how it's just a tool for the GOV, right? Or for the bigger powers that be. But these things always seem to come out to be true in the end. Isn't it so interesting? As I've said before, and I've asked you guys, and I haven't gotten any answers. Can you show me a conspiracy? and I know 99.9% of you guys know what I'm talking about when I say that. Some are always trying to get you to say it so plainly that you do end up, losing your ability to speak again. Can you show me one that has been completely discredited and disproven? I can't think of any. I actually did a video, maybe I'll upload it, that I had done for Evolutionary, and it goes through, I think, 20 that were completely proven true after the case, many years later. There's lots going on, guys. U.S. warns China's actions increase the risk of a miscalculation as Taiwan urges help from allies. We've been keeping track of the jets, and as incursions into Taiwan airspace by PCC. Again, we put it up to a mirror. Military planes, Air Force planes going into their airspace. It just increases constantly. So now Taiwan's, asking for help from Australia. And then, of course, we have Australia, UK, and the US, which that triage, the three of them, that group, has caused some consternation with Chinese officials. Although, obviously, what we're heading towards is we got two freight trains on the same track that are going to collide at some time in the future. It's been planned for a very long time, perhaps as far back as 1871, maybe farther back than that. Maybe it goes back 5,000 years to the beginning of the Kali Yuga. So, these things, you just have to look at them like an hour or two later and get a news update, because here you see more than 100 Chinese military aircraft entered Taiwan's defense system identification zone over the past 3 days. And, in reality, it's almost 150 in the past 4 days. This is most definitely a huge uptick as we, look at some of the planes that have been going through the area there. China's foreign ministry makes a statement that Taiwan belongs to China, and the U.S. is in no position to make irresponsible remarks.
Don't know what to say about that, actually.
Well, it's pretty much obvious. I don't think the U.S. Well, as we've been talking about the Trojan horse, I think that everything is exactly in place where these bigger powers that be want it.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like this is exactly what I've been given the vision of going back to 1984 when I first had these visions of what was going to end up being an invasion of the U.S. And I saw it very, very clearly. I saw troops coming up through Florida. I saw them coming over. There was Latin American troops in there. I believed there was people from Venezuela as well as Cuba and other places in there with Chinese and Russian troops. Although to me it seemed like it was mostly Latin American and Chinese troops coming up from Florida, Russian coming down from Canada, as well as Chinese into the Pacific Northwest, and then many that come over the southern border, as well as tons that were already in place. And think about we were talking about 400,000 people illegally crossing the border this month. Can you imagine if 10% of them are actually troops?
Mm-hmm.
And they're already, that's just 1 month. 1 month. We could have 1 million troops in this country already in place. Sure, they think long term. They're very patient. When we say we're both talking about, if you look historically at China, and then if you look at the real power structure behind things, because things are planned out way, way, way ahead. And whether you believe in Albert Pike's statement in 1871 that there was going to end up being 3 great worldwide conflagrations, which, there was an article in the paper, I believe it was 1900, that talked about that. So again, 1900 is before the First World War. 14 years later, then we have World War I breaking out. So that's pretty interesting verification right there that these things happen and that these plans are really long term. And so what we see, as you see here, China flew 145 aircraft into Taiwan's air defense zone past 4 days. Today marked the most ever, 52. 4 aircraft carriers now exercising in the Western Pacific. The USS Ronald Reagan, Carl Vinson, and HMS Queen Elizabeth. So, one of those is UK. And while I'm thinking about it, let us just take a quick peek. I was meaning to bring this up to see what they're showing as far as fleet movement. Okay, this is October 4th. This is our newest. And we see the Reagan and the Vinson over here. The Essex is up inside the Gulf there. And then they're showing the Iwo Jima and the Harry Truman over basically in that area where we had those experimental blasts.
Very curious.
Interesting. Are they going to be testing more? Are we going to see another 3.9 off the Florida coast?
Mm-hmm.
Which the Galactics told us they intercepted.
Twice.
They 2? Was there 3 times?
Twice. For sure, twice.
For sure, twice. I thought 3 times they intercepted basically missiles that were, the whole purpose was to start something.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I believe, in my humble opinion, that there's people at the highest echelons of American politics that are completely on the PCC, shall we say, payroll? Absolutely, as many I think do, and this is part of the great divorce in the country. As you see here again from Zero Hedge, 52 in one day, heading towards the island. Now, something else that was really interesting that Cindy was getting visions of was not up in the air. As we see, China says the U.S. should stop supporting Taiwan separatist forces and mind their own business. And the U.S. condemns intrusion of Chinese warplanes into Taiwan, ADIZ. And of course, all these things have to go along certain channels, and you always have to make something look good, even if there is foreknowledge of all this going on. When we look at what used to be called the Formosa Strait, or the Strait of Taiwan here, it is at the closest point to the mainland, I believe 112 miles. That's, a pretty big strait. So, again, thinking long term, and thinking about how, when we look to how quickly China put up, say, hospitals, as we're waiting for this to load, and hopefully it will load, they put them up so quick, and yes, some of them might be falling down as well, but they're able to do things much quicker because they don't have the political structure. They don't have anything holding them back like we do here in the U.S. So the longest, these are railway tunnels. The Seikan Tunnel in Japan is 53.85 kilometers long, longest and deepest rail tunnel in the world. Passes through the Tsugaru Strait connecting the Hokkaido and Honshu Islands. And it's 100 meters, or about 300 plus feet below the seabed. When we look to the Taiwan Strait at the deepest point, it's about 450 feet. So why are we talking about that? Because when Cindy was asking the guides about this,
well, they gave me a picture of these men walking into tunnels, going like downhill into tunnels, and it was just the shortest little movie clip, but that tells me that not only are they going in the air, that's the part that we can see, that's the part they want us to see, but underneath the scenes, they're going in the tunnels.
Yeah, always the chance too, perhaps, that it could be referring to underground movement. as we were talking about how many troops are probably already in the US of A, the same thing, the infiltration that could be going on in Taiwan. But at the same time, if you think about it, this tunneling strategy is something that's been done since the Middle Ages, the Dark Ages. When you are laying siege to a city, a town, and they have big walls that you can't penetrate, can't go over the top so easily without losing a lot of people. In past time, they have dug tunnels under the wall, popped up, and opened the door.
Mm-hmm.
They've also given Trojan horses, where people came out of the Trojan horse and unlocked the door and let them in. And, as we know, that is something that's ongoing here in the US of A, if you guys have been following the channel for a while. So yeah, this got me thinking. And then also, when we talk about these deep underground military bases and the technology that's in use, because this is just talking about known facts here. The Channel Tunnel too is 50.5 kilometers long. That goes between France and the UK. So these are known, but the deep underground military ones, they go all over the globe. And those are real too. Many people, including Phil Schneider, talked at depth about those. So yeah, the technology is out there, most definitely, especially if you have the full backing of the powers that be. And this is, again, part of the scripture that we are given. And we see the Russian Navy successfully fires Zircon anti-ship hypersonic cruise missile from a nuclear sub for the first time ever. These are ominous signs. Now, the Galactics, are going to stop anything big. But how big will they block a particular, strength missile? I don't know. Again, it was very, very curious that when we saw number 45 take office, one of the first things that he did was back out of certain treaties where there was a minimum. And so, we did see also a blast over in Beirut that almost looked like it was, a NUKE on a very, very small scale. That was a pretty damn powerful blast. And my feeling was that was a test.
Mm-hmm.
And again, do we believe the official story? No, but that was just, do we believe the official story? Some people will. Some people always believe the official stories. And others will always question. So here we see also the British Army, as we're waiting for this to come up again. Sorry, guys. The British Army begins delivering fuel themselves to ease the fuel crisis. And this is part of also what we've gotten. We will all pretty much kind of get used to seeing the military in everyday life.
Right. And it's very unfortunate, but it's how they're going to kind of infiltrate and get things ready without, a huge shock. What they want to do is they just want people to stay asleep for as long as possible before they really tell you any kind of truth, So they will appease, they will go really slow because these are patient beings that we're dealing with, and they know how to get things done and they know how to do takeovers. And this is what we got going on across the globe.
So yes, the British Army has begun deliveries themselves to ease the fuel crisis. And again, it's all this is just coincidentally happening at the same time. Just like a tanker, ship gets stuck in one of the most important canals. It's just, hey, that was just bad luck and bad timing. Bridges all of a sudden develop cracks in Mississippi. And again, backup ships, just bad timing, bad luck. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah, there's a bridge for sale in Brooklyn. So yes, you have 200 military tanker personnel have been deployed to alleviate the crisis. Well, thank you so much.
Isn't that generous of them?
As we see there, BP, that BP sign that was there. Oh, they don't want us talking about this. Yeah, now it looks like RT is off. Okay, so there's something called the, there was think we actually, well, let's jump past that, because I do remember having a video put down before.
Oh, and they just took our internet.
They did take our internet. Sorry, guys. Well, you know,
Well,
what we're going to do is we're just going to see if we could get one of these to come up, and we'll just talk about what we're going to talk about without showing.
Wow. This is like a huge outage here for many.
We were talking about that. All right. So, yes, think about Pandora's box. Well, there's papers that came out, Pandora papers,
right,
that are just, again, talking about showing how elites are able to get around the system, not pay taxes, utilize the system to their advantage. And it's really, I mean, it's more than unfair. I mean, there's no fairness in that. When you have corporations that are not paying taxes, and you got these politicians that are making decisions that really affect the average person, and it's all basically to support these corporations, which then are basically greasing the palms of the dirty politicians. This is the world that we live in.
Yeah.
This is totally the world that we live in these times. And it's just so sad, but it's so true. This is what we have.
And all the while we support them.
Well, I think less and less people do, but then at the same time, when you have the enforcement power at their beck and call, and again, if they're the ones that are going to be giving you your paycheck, so to speak, even though they're taking tax money from everybody, not necessarily the corporations, and giving their share of taxes, then basically they're using our money to basically lord over us.
Well, that's kind of what I mean about we support them. It's not like we deliberately support them, but they know how to get around the system, and on many times unknowingly we are supporting them. Until you really know the system, people don't give it much thought, but that's how it goes.
When we look back to World War II and we see what happens in World War II, and my mom, she was like such a huge World War II historian, and so that affected me basically growing up, as she was born in 1929, so she was born the year of the Great Depression, and grew up in the World War II years, and really paid attention historically. And she used to talk about how all the factories just shifted over their production from making cars, making electronics, making all this stuff, to making the war machine, to fight the evil that was over there attempting to affect our lives over here. But when you see basically companies like Ford, right? You think Ford, gosh, that's all American. GM, all American. Well, when we look at Ford, they used labor from the concentration camps over in Europe to make their products, and made a ton of profit on slave labor from the concentration camps. And, Henry Ford was even on record showing some support for the NAZIS. And you wonder why. And then you look to companies like IGFARBEN, and you look to the political ties that came out of that company. And again, that was the company that, when they first started doing their plans for eliminating a certain problem, which involved lining people up in front of ditches, and at first, basically executing them with bullets, and then just burying them there, and then eventually realized they need the ammo for the war itself, and it was too costly. So they moved to the showers, which weren't showers at all, but had a certain gas in it. Well, this company made that gas. And a salesperson for this company was none other than John Paul II, Pope John Paul II. was a salesperson for this company. This is how these ties work. And 2 presidents with the last name that starts with a B, it's only got 4 letters, are tied. Their predecessor, who was also in American politics, made a lot of money and had stock in this company. They benefited from the atrocities of World War I. But this is what they do. They play both sides, control both sides, and make profits and consolidate power.
Mm-hmm.
Eliminate opposition.
And they make sure that the real information isn't easy to come across.
No, and so again, this is where we have to wake up. We need to wake up the military, the police,
Mm-hmm.
all the soldiers, the National Guard. You have to recognize there's been many soldiers throughout history serving a leader and then realizing, wow, maybe I made the wrong choice. How many soldiers have gone over to Afghanistan and Iraq and other places that you probably never even heard of, and then are affected in such a negative way by the things they've been asked to do? And what was it all for? These wars, you got to say, some will look and say, America doesn't have a good track record winning wars lately. Well, that's really because they're not meant to be won. Mm-hmm. There's tremendous profit in just keeping it going.
It's just horrible.
So when will things stop? Well, first we have to get people at the highest levels to wake up, or at least the people below them to wake up. Mm-hmm. And people not to feed the machine. We got to get out of the machine. And that's what we've been preaching. Use the system to get out of the system as much as possible. And that's a good place to start. So we do want to thank everybody for your support at Patreon. We couldn't do it without you guys. Also, everybody that's been checking out and enjoying medicinal foods, use coupon code EEA for an extra 5% off your order. And then as you fill up the cart at checkout, you get bonuses up to 25% and free shipping. Lots of different stuff going on, as you see. There's some specials running on right now.
And we do want to say a huge thank you to Miss Patricia and Miss Andrea. Thank you for your support, you guys. It's super, super appreciated.
Let's keep waking up this world and getting out of this matrix. God bless and namaste.
Namaste.